2, 1.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. This is Abdullah Samir, and welcome again to another episode of my show. I'm joined today by another special guest. I'm joined by Mohamed from Morocco. Hello, Mohamed.
Hello, Abdullah.
How's it going?
Thank you for having me. Thank
Yeah.
you. It's a great pleasure to be on your channel. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Excited to hear your story. So let's go into a bit of history. Let's go all the way back. So I met you on Twitter, and that's how we became friends, and we've been interacting on it for quite a while now. And I saw your first video that you made, which was you made an announcement that you were applying for asylum in Sweden, and that's when I retweeted your video. Can you tell us a little bit about that, just very quickly?
Yes. So I made a protest video, actually, where I protested the decision of deportation of the Swedish asylum authorities, because I applied for asylum here in Sweden after I fled Morocco, and they applied for asylum based on political and religious grounds for my atheistic views and critical views of Islam and critical views of the monarchy and my previous history in Morocco. And the Swedish asylum authorities basically said, just go back to Morocco and hide and don't express those views that trigger the interests of the Moroccan authorities and the Moroccan public. So just abstain from expressing your views, basically.
Interesting. Yeah. So now, you were born in Morocco. Did you live in Morocco your whole life before you came to Sweden?
Yes.
So you were in Morocco your whole life. And how did you end up becoming irreligious? What is the kind of, from what I've heard, Morocco is a lot more liberal than, say, Pakistan or Saudi. There are atheists there that are even open about the atheism. There's an atheist council or something in Morocco. There's some famous
the Council of Ex-Muslims in Morocco.
Yes,
it's dead now. I think it's pretty much dead. Yeah.
What happened?
And the story of that one, I was actually in my early days of irreligiosity back then, and so the Council of Ex-Muslims of Morocco, I think it was created in 2011. So I was quite young at that time.
Oh yeah.
And the founder, Ahmed Din Habib.
Yes.
Yes, you've heard this name before. Good.
I was doing some research on this before. Yeah, and I saw his name mentioned in an article.
Okay, so he created this organization, I think, with some other Moroccan irreligious people, and that was during the Arab Spring era. 2011, early 2011. So, and I think he was recorded in a video saying that Islam is a virus. Yeah. I think that was too insulting to viruses. So, okay. So he said that, and based on that, his case went to court, and his own father, I think, testified against him. And luckily for Ahmed Din Habib, he left Morocco to Britain and got asylum before the ruling took place and took legal effect. And he was sentenced to 7 years in jail in absentia.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Whoa.
So careful what you say with Morocco is more liberal. Morocco is very, as a friend of mine said, Morocco is like a big cake. It looks very nice from the outside.
Yeah.
But once you dig with your hands, you just find a pile of shit inside. So sorry for the language, but yeah. So it's like that. So most outsiders, their knowledge of Morocco is limited to couscous in Marrakesh and all that.
Yeah.
They have to be inside and to live in the culture, grow up there, to get all that schizophrenic and contradictory cultural norms and like authoritarian rule on you.
Yeah. Oh wow. So how did you end up irreligious, atheist? Like what made you doubt the religion in the first place?
the short story is that I wanted to become the best Muslim possible, and I ended up leaving it. That's the short version.
Okay.
I just studied it very much. I wanted to be the best Muslim possible. I thought I had the absolute truth, etc. And I have been a history nerd, and I always was very curious about how things are. Why, for example, how like, do we have, for example, scientific evidence for that the demons are being hit by those meteors?
Shooting stars, yeah.
Yeah, shooting stars, yeah.
Yeah.
So things like that, and
So, yep.
yeah,
Keep going. Yep. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
yeah.
interrupt you.
My intention at first was like that, and growing up, I was surrounded by religion all the time. I grew up Sunni Maliki like most Moroccans, and I would say I grew up in a more religious household than the average Moroccan,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we had the the religious books, and we practiced religion more than the average Moroccan.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there is that, and well, funny story, in our home, the neighborhood mosque,
Yeah.
our home was a bit too tall, like a tall building, so they used the mosque speaker, they put it up on our roof, so I
Oh,
was
yeah.
basically hearing the call to prayers basically at home 5 times a day.
Yeah.
So when you live like that and your whole life is surrounded by your religion, and when you go outside and everything is ruled by Islam and all of that, then you start questioning things a little bit. You want to discover why things are the way they are, and how can I become the best Muslim possible and all that. So after doing like, and this is like in my teenage years. This is I was still very young at that time. After like doing some deep digging, and at that time I grew up a little bit more mature intellectually. I was no longer a little child who gives childish explanations to things. Although even as a child, some things didn't really make sense, because our children now know more than the ancient people back in Arabian Sahara. So there was that research period where I just focused so much on the Islamic books and read the Quran. I try to understand it and read the interpretations, mainly Ibn Kathir. That's like the main Sunni interpretation. And there was that period when things stopped making much sense, because if you just look, for example, at the story of Solomon, it says that he had the biggest army ever, the biggest kingdom ever in history. Now we know for a fact that there is no archaeological evidence or historical evidence for such a kingdom. So things like that trigger some skepticism, I would say, and it makes you, dig more. And of course, at the time, you're still looking at the text with like this label of sacred. You still label it as a sacred text, and if you come to a wrong conclusion, then you like put the blame on yourself. The text
Yeah.
can't be wrong.
Yeah.
I am wrong.
Yeah.
And then you look up for some interpretations, and as you might have noticed from personal experience, there are like some really childish apologetics for so many of those issues, like for example the issue of the marriage age of Aisha, or and those like historical errors in mistakes in the Quran, and scientific mistakes, like, oh, this is just a metaphor, or this is just this is just misunderstood, or science hasn't advanced enough yet for us to understand it, etc. The usual stuff.
The usual excuses, yeah.
Yeah, the usual excuses. Yeah, exactly. So of course those apologetics did not really cut it for me.
Mhm.
And then you start looking for outside sources, and then you start looking for non-Islamic sources. Most scientific sources are non-Islamic and not influenced by religion,
Yeah.
because most of the scientific advancement took place outside the Muslim world. And with the help of the internet,
Yeah.
easy access to information, so that helped a lot. And even if you have in Morocco, if you don't have internet at home, there are internet cafes where you can go and you just pay like 5 Moroccan dirhams, which is like half US dollars, and spend an hour there. And
Yeah.
you can just download and or print whatever papers you want and do your own research. So you don't need this religious authority and hear all these, old excuses that are just don't make sense to the sane human mind.
Yeah. When you started this research, was it one thing in particular that really stood out for you, that was an argument against the Quran or Islam or the Prophet? Was it something particular that really, like, you said, wow, I cannot buy this, and this is what kind of caused an avalanche of doubt, or the process of leaving Islam? What happened there?
There were so many things, but I think the main reasons were, I can divide them into three categories. There's the historical mistakes, the scientific mistakes, and the clear indicators that Prophet Muhammad made it up. So we can take an example of Prophet Muhammad making it up, and that good example is his marriage to his adopted son
Oh
in
yeah, adopted son's
so yeah,
wife,
wife,
Zainab.
his adopted son's wife.
Yeah.
So he had a whole verse revealed to him to allow him to marry that woman, and he then banned adoption in Islam. So it was clear, yes, it was clear that this person was using religion for his own gain. So again, once you remove the sacredness, once you start looking at the text as you would, for example, read the Bible or read any
Well, Bible would be read as a sacred text too. You mean like any other book, like
any other book? Yeah. I mean, as a Muslim, well, Muslims don't consider, for example, the Bible as sacred, or as the same way as Christians consider it. They consider it corrupt. Although most Muslims never read the Bible, and they think it's one book. And like the common put down for Christianity in Islamic apologetics. Oh, the Quran is the Bible, sorry, is corrupt and changed, and you don't need to look into it. The Quran is the final word and eternal word of God.
I just want to say thank you to Daniel David, who just gave a $10 donation. He said, I respect the two of you very much. The world is so lucky to have you. Keep up the great work. Just a little surprise for Mohamed here. I did not tell him this before the stream, but I will be passing over all the super chats to you at the end. So if you guys want to support Mohamed, obviously, he's starting a new life in Sweden. So whatever money he is donated during the stream, I'll be passing it to him. It'll be, I think, of use to him in his new life. So thank you, Daniel David. So yeah, what you were saying makes sense. There's a lot of different things. There's big category questions. There's the historical issues, the scientific issues. You said you were leading into Ibn Kathir and others. And so when I wanted to ask you, when you were doing this research, is all this research in English? Because
no, mixed languages. At that time, my English was not that good.
Oh yeah.
So most of the language I relied on was Arabic.
Oh,
and French, because we speak French as a second language in Morocco mostly. Yeah. So, but also in English later on, when my English started improving, because most of the scientific work is published in English. So I think the more my English improved, around the age of 15, 16, the more easy access to information I had.
Oh yeah. So there's less
Yeah.
information in Arabic, less critical information in Arabic.
Well, in Arabic, you don't have that many sources, and you will find more apologetics for Islam than for critical texts on Islam.
Yeah.
There aren't that many critics of Islam in Arabic that are famous and you have their material accessible.
Yeah.
The one that I would consider number one in the Arab-speaking world is Hamid Abdul Samad, but
Yes.
he doesn't live in the Arab-speaking world anymore. He lives
Yeah.
in Germany now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
under police protection.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. I'm gonna
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
having him on the channel actually next week to talk about
Oh,
that as well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, yeah,
So okay. So we know your story. We know how you left Islam now. So tell me what
oh, yeah.
happened. What was the incident that caused you to want to leave Morocco? Tell me what happened and how it happened.
Well, there were a series of events. It wasn't just one incident, but one incident that triggered the whole thing was the fact that I was attacked physically with a knife in a dark alley in Casablanca. Because to go further, Casablanca is not my hometown. So I was, even before that, attacked at university when I was a university student. But it wasn't that serious, and I was more revolutionary then. So I
Can you tell me
just
first about the university incident then? What happened?
yes, yeah, because we skipped too much, I think. At university, that's where I would say my irreligiosity even became more, developed even
Yeah.
further. Because you meet like-minded people, you grow older and mature more, and you have like more capacity, intellectual capacity to absorb things. So during that period, I just felt like there was this change in Morocco that's happening, and I need to take part of it. And what I didn't read right was that the university is not the real Moroccan society, because at the university you have the communists, you have the Islamists, you have and the Islamists are divided into the Salafists, and then you have the more moderate Islamists who just want to make it illegal to leave Islam and just put you in jail and possibly have a debate whether to kill you. And the Salafists just want to kill you with their own hands.
Well,
So you have that diversity. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
And you have, yeah.
I usually categorize them a little bit differently. So because the Salafis I know and the scholars of Salafism are against vigilantism and they're against that sort of thing. It's a jihadist Salafists, which are basically the Islam. I mean, they're all Islamists, so to speak, but the ones that don't go against the ones that go against their own scholars are the most dangerous, because their own scholars, for example, in Saudi, names are slipping my mind now, but
Yeah, those three scholars who've been arrested and sentenced to jail, I
with,
think, right? The three scholars that
no, I'm
were
talking about
sent.
the
No.
ones. I'm talking about like Ibn Uthaymeen and like
Oh,
the kind of the famous Salafi scholars. They've all spoken
yeah,
against vigilantism. So no one
yeah,
is allowed to, unless it's the law of the land. And I mean, that's a different story altogether.
yeah.
But like, yeah, in university, you were saying, so there's the ones that all the different Salafis
Yeah,
and
it's like clans inside
yeah,
the university, but also
yeah,
there was some, the agnostic front. The communists are pretty much mostly irreligious.
oh
So,
yeah,
yeah. So you get like the idea. Oh, there's gonna be some change, and I was less mature, like in reading society at that time. So I thought there was like potential change in the Arab Spring, and was taking place. The first ex-Muslim council in Morocco was created during the time when I enrolled at university, shortly before I enrolled to university. So there were those changes, those indicators that things are going to change. So I was thinking myself that, oh, Morocco is not like those other countries. It's going to change, and that changed by my fifth, sixth semester there. So, and when things changed and I got like harassed and all that, like repeatedly, I just thought, well, this is just my hometown being like this. the hometown that's conservative. So then, what I would call an internal move inside the country. I moved from my hometown to Casablanca, which is the biggest country, the biggest city in Morocco. So I was thinking, oh well, this is the biggest city in Morocco. It's the center of of the country. It's the economic capital. So there must be some more some open minds there, and I will have more freedom there, and I will just focus more on my personal growth and professional growth, because then I graduated because I moved after I graduated university. So that like Che Guevara inside me just died suddenly.
What died?
Yeah,
What died inside you?
Che Guevara, I would say the revolutionary spirit. Yeah, the spirit of the revolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's that, and I was quite also it wasn't just the Islam that I was not very happy about. It was also the Moroccan monarchy, which is quite brutal there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit then? What is it? So when I was talking to my friend, his wife is from Morocco. He lives in the UK. He said that there's a big problem. So the Moroccan government, and tell me if this is what you agree with or not. He said the Moroccan government, the treatment of minorities, like for example, the Amazigh, is even worse than the treatment of like atheists over there. He said that they've been persecuted, and like, is that the case you see? Like the minorities are actually treated even worse than the religious minorities. So ethnic minorities now I'm talking about.
Okay, well, this friend thinks that the Amazigh are an ethnic minority in Morocco. They are the majority.
Oh yeah.
Morocco is an Amazigh country. What happened is that an Arabization took place.
Oh yeah.
So that's what happened, and it's
Are they
not a
treated
minority
badly then by the Arab power, I guess, because it's an Arab control basically situation, right?
Well, the family, that's the ruling family, is
Yes.
it's the royal family, Alawite family. It's from Arab descent, or
Oh yeah.
and for like throughout its Islamic history in Morocco, the Amazigh ruling families that ruled were only two out of all the countless families, and this one that's still in power, the Alawite family, the Alawiyin, has been in power for almost 400 years. So, and of course, with Arabization, the minority was persecuted. But I would not think that there's like now
the language and culture. What about the language and culture?
Yeah, the language and culture has been erased mostly.
Yeah.
The Amazigh languages and the dialects have been reduced to minority languages.
Oh yeah.
And now they did like some public relations stunt lately in the last few years to like resurrect an Amazigh language, which is basically just a cloned language of like the local dialects, Amazigh dialects there, and they just made it an official language next to Arabic, but still it's not really widely used because it's like a language made in a lab. It's like Esperanto or something.
Oh yeah.
Nobody speaks it as a native language there, so it was a publicity stunt. So and many people fail for it. I mean, we're talking about a population that's like 34% illiterate, can't read or write. So a third of the population can't read or write. So you can really easily get away with anything with the Moroccan population. So I mean, there's no wonder that one royal family and its close entourage is monopolizing the whole economy in the whole country. And yeah.
I when I looked this up, basically the article I read, I don't remember which one it was, but I copied it. It said the countless examples of Amazigh repression and violation of human rights under North African regimes. Under the rule of King Hassan II in Morocco, a period known as the Years of Lead, thousands of Amazighin were imprisoned, tortured, and or killed by state violence.
The previous king, Hassan II, he was a bloodthirsty monster. So if we're talking recent history, there were some almost 60 coups against him, and 6 were very serious. In one of them, the people who were caught, who conducted that military coup, One of them was his brother-in-law, his wife's brother. So he executed that person,
Wow.
and along with 10 of his top top
General?
ranking officers
Yeah.
uh, on live television in the early
What?
70s. Yeah,
Wow.
so it was Game of Thrones. He did not care
Yeah.
about anything but power in brute force.
Yeah.
He got what he wanted through brute force. He was not taking any. He was not. He did not negotiate anything. He was an absolute ruler.
Are
Yeah.
you Amazigh yourself? Amazighi?
I would say 50-50. I don't speak the language as a mother tongue. I
Oh,
just know some words, but most Moroccans are. So
oh
yeah,
yeah.
I would assume yeah,
Yeah.
they're just Arabized. The ones that don't speak the language as a mother tongue are Arabized. But yeah, so there's that, and so I there. Back to the point that he said that atheists are less persecuted. Well, I think that's different categories, and atheists in the past, they were not like vocal atheists in Morocco. They were non-existent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they existed, but where are they? Did they write something? Did they speak about something? I mean, the first outspoken atheist in Moroccan history is Qasim al-Ghazali, who now lives in Switzerland. After he was harassed, kicked out of school, the Moroccan Human Rights Association refused to help him because he was considered, an infidel atheist. So they didn't want to be associated with him. So just they fed him to the wolves. And he was, the only thing that saved him was that he was able to get asylum in Switzerland while he was in Morocco.
So,
Yeah, and when he went to the Moroccan, the Swiss embassy in Morocco,
mhm.
the Moroccan personnel there turned him away. So he insisted that he would meet a Swiss national there, Swiss personnel in the Swiss embassy. And if I'm not wrong, he talked to the ambassador there, and he explained his situation, and he was granted asylum and refugee status, and they flew him to Switzerland. So that's what saved his life. Otherwise, he would possibly be dead by now.
Wow, wow. Yeah, that's something we take for granted over here in the West is human rights, freedom to protest, freedom to, to
Yeah,
do all that. I'm going to invite my friend, who is another guy from Morocco, just to kind of throw his insights in here, just to add a little bit of salt or masala, as we say in my background, to the conversation. While we're waiting for him, I wanted to ask you, what do you think of the Western annexation of the West Sahara annexation that Morocco did of the Western
yeah.
Sahara? Yeah.
Well, it is a very complicated situation. And what's happening there, I think, now is that Morocco has a de facto status there. The Moroccan army is keeping it. It's under Moroccan control, but not all of it, because a big territory of it, like the border in Algeria and the parts border in Mauritania in the south and in the east, is full of landmines, especially with Algeria. So it's a very tense situation there, and the population there is, I would consider it a persecuted population, because they would not let them have a referendum, because they will possibly break out if the referendum is conducted and regulated and not rigged. So they don't, yeah. So
So
they don't have that. Speaking of referendums, there was like one of the things that the Moroccan regime did to just calm down the riots, the protests in 2011, was that they proposed a new constitution, which was basically just a constitution that they wrote at the palace,
yeah.
and they just changed some words and some synonyms, and they just changed, they added some really phatic expressions that just don't mean much,
Yeah.
and didn't change the essence in the core of the constitution. And then they put it to vote for the dumb population. Sorry for the smart Moroccans. Yeah, and they said, oh, well, it was 98 or 99% of the population that voted yes for this constitution. So even in rigging the elections, they are not doing it right. If they just said maybe it was 89% or
Yeah.
87%, it's believable.
Yeah.
A little bit. It still sounds rigged, but
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't really care much. It's like 99% or 98.7% or some crazy statistic.
Yeah.
So this is the country we are talking about. Yeah.
That's crazy. So Mohamed Saidi is here. Mohamed Saidi, hi, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Good,
How are you,
good.
Abdullah Mohammed?
Hey, Mohamed.
So
Saidi.
Mohamed and Mohamed, it's
Yeah.
gonna get
How are you?
confusing.
Yeah.
A lot of Mohammeds in Morocco, isn't there?
Yeah, in the whole world, a lot of Morocco
Yeah.
Mohammeds.
A
I think
lot
it's
of Mohammeds. It's the
most
most
people
common
in the
name.
planet are called Mohammed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Mohamed Saidi, what are your experiences as an atheist in Morocco? We'll have you on for like, let's say 20 minutes, and then we'll get back to the other Mohammed story. So this is just to add a little bit of third person perspective. What are your experiences as an atheist?
Sure.
You're an atheist in Morocco as well.
Yeah, so
And you're
I
living
think
in
I have
Morocco Sorry.
yeah, I'm living in Fes in Morocco. I think I have like 4 cases of where people know that have known that I'm an atheist, and I've experienced the reaction to me being an atheist. There's first my parents. They're not opposed to it, but they're usually in denial, and they try to bribe me to come back to religion. So it would say, like, for example, pray every day and I will give you some of money, or come with us to this sheikh, we'll give you some of money, stuff like that. But they're not trying to oppress me for being an atheist or anything like
That's
that.
nice. That's nice. Parents giving you money to be Muslim. You should become Muslim, man. Like, it seems like a good deal.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not a good deal, because then they'll stop
Did
you.
it?
So you have to keep
Yeah.
like having doubts so that they keep convincing you.
Yeah, they're always in denial. Like, for example, I would be joking to my father, I'm not gonna fast this Ramadan, and would be, but it's part of Islam. He's still like in denial that I'm still Muslim, even though I keep telling him that I left the religion.
And what about like in public? Like you said, you had some experiences in public, being an
Yeah. I don't. I'm very like, I don't speak about religion with anyone. You know, I'm very careful with whom I speak. Not just because I'm in danger, but also I don't want to hurt my head with conversations. But in my university, there was a teacher who was like talking about Quranists, and he was doing all like talk about how can you believe that the Prophet married a 6-year-old and stuff like that. And we had an argument, and people in the classroom knew that I'm an atheist, realized I'm an atheist, and a girl got emotional and started like screaming, how can you say that about Islam? But everyone in the classroom came to my defense and told her everyone can have their own opinion. And she came later and apologized too.
Wow, nice.
So that's yeah. Second
Sorry.
case of me telling people atheist.
Sorry, Mohammed, but
Sorry?
which
You want to say something?
university
Yeah.
department was that? Which university department? Philosophy, sociology, French?
No, accounting.
Accounting. Okay, that's very interesting.
You guys were
That's
talking
very
about Aisha's age in accounting class?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Moroccan educational
Well,
system.
it was in French class, so it's not that weird.
Okay. Yeah, it's Islam is everywhere, thanks to Allah.
Yeah, it was a French class, so we weren't talking about accounting. It was just French language.
Oh, okay. I thought you said
So
accounting.
you can talk about whatever. Yeah. No, we don't talk about other stuff. Well, but we have I think we have a socialization. I forgot the name in English, where we talked about like the 3 ways that people use to explain nature, like their religion, atheism, and stuff like that. No, atheism, positivism. Yeah. But yeah, my people in the classroom knew that I'm an atheist. There were like about 4 people there. None of them had any problems. They were very nice. When I became an atheist, I discovered I have 3 friends that I knew before became an atheist. They were also an atheists. And they told their friends are okay with it as well. The last case where people knew that I'm an atheist was I made a video on YouTube, and it got kind of viral where people in my neighborhood watched it and they were like commenting on the video on
People in
Facebook.
your neighborhood.
Um,
How did they find it?
it wasn't. They were,
Morocco, it's
the
Morocco.
video page
You
on
know, ask
Facebook.
how they find
They
it. They
shared the
find it.
video.
So what happened? Okay, let's
Yeah,
get
they shared the video on Facebook, and I saw people in my neighborhood commenting there, and they were also fine with it.
What?
They were laughing because I made a funny video, and they were just laughing. Yeah,
You did it?
people in my neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it just fits
Oh,
the
you know
neighborhood
what?
I live in.
But didn't you make okay? Let's be real. I made a video saying Mohammed's not a pedophile, and you said no, Mohammed is a pedophile. Was that the video they saw? Because I don't think they would be happy and laughing about that.
Me neither.
Sorry. Oh yeah,
a video
yeah.
I don't think we should call Mohammed a pedophile because of the social, cultural reasons at that time or whatever. And I don't think he was a pedophile. I think that was just one of his marriages. You responded to my video. You made a new video saying, no, we should call him a pedophile. That's not the video they were laughing about, was it?
Are you talking about the video I shared? What was it about?
Okay, what was the topic of the video that you made? Like, what if I'm saying
I meant everything.
How was your criticism of Islam? Were you saying Muhammad is a
I
warlord?
wasn't criticizing. I was making fun. Yeah.
Well, making fun is sometimes just as bad or even worse, right?
Yeah, even I
Mocking
made
Islam.
jokes about everything in Islam. I didn't leave anything. I didn't leave anything. Yeah, there were like some egregious things, and even people in my classroom, they have access to my Facebook, and I share all sort of stuff in there. So yeah.
Wow. So
But
how
I think it's just because like in city and people are, I think the richer you are in Morocco,
yeah.
the less extremist you are.
Okay, so you live in a posh neighborhood, and now you're lecturing someone from the Morocco of the 80%, from the real Morocco that goes bananas if you just sneeze over a copy of the Quran. Is that what's this come about, Mohammed? I thought we were friends. I'm just messing with you, man. I'm just messing with you. Yeah.
No, this is good. I'd like to hear. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
So I actually asked Mohammed Saidi to what his opinion was of this thing, and everyone in the country is not going to have the same experience. So what I was trying to understand is that the case, Mohammed Saidi? That do you feel like your experience? I mean, I don't know if you know or not, but are your experiences uncommon? Is this a common thing to just be? Because in the beginning, the part where you weren't here, he talked about the founder of the Moroccan is religious. What was it?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. So and he was
watching. Yes.
imprisoned or arrested or whatever. So obviously there's a red line at some point where you can't cross it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why your experiences are different.
Yeah.
Can you kind of reconcile that for me?
Yeah, I think it's because like the neighborhood I live in. Like if I was in a different neighborhood or like a different university where there are all different kind of people, the experience would have been different, I think. But because like the people I live in or I study with are, I think, middle class. I don't know.
Upper middle class.
They were more okay with it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that was. Thank you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So
that's good.
my thoughts on that, and my thoughts on that is I was similarly shocked when I heard about in Pakistan in university they're open atheists. So it's not just, I think in universities in general across the world you will find people are more liberal, people are more skeptical, people are more even willing to be open about it. I was shocked when I heard in Pakistan, although the whole Mashal Khan killing happened in the university as well, but that was more of an aberration because normally in universities people are tolerated for being skeptics. So Mohammed Saidi, thank you for joining. We'll have a longer conversation another time.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'll catch up with
hopefully.
you.
Thank you.
Have a stream. Maybe we'll invite Mohammed Amara as well.
All right, thank you.
Fight it out.
See you later.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye, Mohammed and Abdullah.
Goodbye, Mohammed.
Bye.
Thank you for coming.
So okay, so going back to your story now.
Yeah.
That was if you want to, let's get back to like what was happening with you. So you were in the university, you had a lot of hope, and you were hopeful about the future. What happened? What changed?
What changed is that I discovered the reality. So I was like Mohamed Saidi, living in a little bubble, and thinking, it's this is and I'm not. It's not an uncommon situation. It's okay as long as you're not very, very blunt about it. If you're just, speaking your mind at university, then that's fine. But I wasn't. So, and I studied at a public university because I'm not a filthy rich Moroccan. So there
You
is
know,
that. Yeah, I grew up in the Morocco of the 85% or
oh yeah,
90% of Moroccans. So I was not filthy rich and studied at some posh people university. So there is that.
yeah. I don't know if
And
you
yeah,
or not, but yeah, definitely in university and certain neighborhoods we would have a different experience than in
yeah.
maybe the rest of Morocco. So what happened to you at university was, were you attacked, or what happened exactly?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, physically attacked. Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah,
Oh,
by
and yeah,
by some fanatic Jews.
some
No, no, fanatic Jews. No, I'm just kidding. It
yeah,
was some fanatic Islamists there.
yeah.
Yeah, who wanted to apply God's law on earth. So yeah, and yes, and before that, I had a very dear friend of mine who was, like Mohammed Saidi. Very, he I think became a religious shortly before me. And even then, I was not open to him, so that he doesn't tell the rest that, hey, oh, Muhammad too is like me, because he was receiving a lot of death threats, and luckily for him, his mother was okay with it. And
So hold on.
I'm not, yeah,
Friend of yours
I'm not.
was
Sorry.
receiving, a friend of yours in university was receiving death threats
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
for
I am
doing.
not going to give too much information because he might be still living in Morocco. So
What was
yeah,
he doing?
and
What was he doing though? That was called.
he was just, speaking his mind on religion. Possibly just like things like what I do now, what I write now on Twitter or on my blog. So it's not thing like to like he was just it was just practicing freedom of expression, which is non-existent in Morocco. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So the death threats thing can happen in any country though. Like for example, I get death threats in Canada. So I mean,
Yes,
I
but
feel
in
like
Canada, sorry, in Canada, you don't have 99% Muslim population.
yeah.
So in Canada, you're gonna take the death threats to the police, and they're gonna take them very seriously.
Oh no,
If
no.
you take them to the Moroccan police,
Yeah.
they will just tell you to F off.
Well, that's a good
Yeah.
that's a good point. Now the thing is the death. Okay, I should clarify the death threats I get, I don't take seriously, and the police don't take seriously because they're not the online like virtual threats. They're not like someone in real life. So there's a difference, right? I mean,
Yes.
so we have to distinguish between legitimate actual threats and like sort of low cost trolling, sort of someone makes an anonymous account and says I will hurt you. That's very different from someone in real life threatening you. So I'm not talking about the real life threats. Yeah, the real life
Yeah.
threats people take seriously.
The real life threats in Morocco happens to me personally. So
Yeah. So let's talk
they have, yeah.
so let's talk about what happened there. So you got these threats in university. What did you do about it? You couldn't go to the police, you said?
No, you can't go to the police. What are you gonna tell them? I said this and this about Islam. I broke the law because it's illegal to violate or say critical things about the symbols of the state, which are Islam, the monarchy, and territorial integrity.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so we've been breaking Moroccan law since we started this stream. That's basically what we've been doing. Yeah, and it's yeah. So Mohammed Saidi should be very careful because I've been in a like that little bubble at some point, and it's very like because I've been in that little bubble and got out, and then I got into that little bubble again when I moved to Casablanca. So
Oh yeah.
enough about the university period now, I think, and I will move now to when I moved to Casablanca, the biggest city in Morocco. So moving to Casablanca, I was thinking, this is the economic capital, and it's more open and more advanced, etc. And the society might be more tolerant. And there were, like an underground, irreligious, Moroccan, underground community, I would say. So it exists. Now, however, I think atheists exist in Mecca, so we can't use that as a meter. It's like saying, well, it's illegal to kill. Sorry, it's legal to kill homosexuals in Iran, but it exists. They exist. Well, of course they exist. They exist everywhere. So you can't use that as a meter. And so they do exist. And I think Morocco, next to Egypt, is one of the Arab-speaking countries with the highest number of irreligious people and convinced atheists. And one official Moroccan report one time was issued in a newspaper called Morocco World News, which is the largest English-speaking Moroccan online newspaper. And it said that, there are about 300-ish Moroccan convinced atheists. And I think those 300-ish were just in the philosophy department in the university I studied. So that's how absurd the situation is. And so they deny that you exist. You should see one video where there was a street reportage where they talked to Moroccans and asked them about people who leave Islam. What do they think of them? And the answers were, like what an ISIS fighter would give you, basically. And it wasn't that shocking to me because I come from there. So I've been. It was shocking to some Moroccans who didn't follow those things closely. Some Moroccans who live abroad.
Yeah.
Since forever, so they're like, oh wow, Morocco changed. Oh well, you've been living abroad for 30 years, so hello. And so there's that, and there is also again the legal repercussions, like what happened to Tawfiq Boukir, the actor, recently. It's not surprising. Yeah,
talk about that. Yeah. Let me just can you explain what happened? I'm just going to open it up on my screen and so people know what I'm talking about. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. So can you just explain? I'm just gonna share my screen.
Yes. So I think what happened is that he made an Instagram stream where he was making or joking about ablution, the cleaning before the Islamic prayer. And he said that Moroccans should do ablution using vodka and whiskey. And he was drunk. He was doing that live Instagram stream while he was drunk, and he said that and wine and all that. So he just made some funny remarks on Islamic ablution before prayer.
Yeah.
Now this is not a big deal in a civilized country that respects freedom of speech, but that's in Morocco. That's enough for you to get arrested and go on trial, like what happened to him. And he risks now 6 months to 3 years in jail, or 6 months to 2 years in jail, and a fine of $2,000 to $20,000. So for an average Moroccan, if they give you that jail sentence, your life is over.
Mm-hmm.
And they put you with serious criminals. They're not gonna put you in a little nice area in jail. They're gonna put you with murderers and rapists.
It's not like here in Canada or the West where you'd get like there's different levels of there's maximum security, and then there's like, for people that like they just give them a slap on the wrist, sort of, right?
Okay, well, let me tell you something. Give you some more clarification, because if you're gonna use Canada as the standard, you're gonna be shocked about the things that go on in Moroccan prisons and Moroccan legal system and the Moroccan police offices. There's a famous Moroccan way of torture, which is they break a bottle of glass and they make you sit on it as a form of torture.
Ouch.
And bleed from your bottom until you pass out.
Wow, it's terrible.
So yeah. And this is very classic way of torturing political prisoners, especially. This is like very, very special. There's this very commonly used against political prisoners. And it doesn't matter if you're irreligious or Islamist. If you just say, oh, well, I think the king is stealing too much money, or this and that. Well, yeah, you're in for a treat.
Yeah.
And if you say something like this, like what Tawfiq Boubker said, or Tariq Boubker, I always get his first name wrong. And yeah, so he's a very famous Moroccan actor. So that's probably was why his case made it to international media in the first place. You know, if it's a case of just some random Moroccan citizen, it probably wouldn't even make it to local news circles. There was a school, a high school student near the city where Mohamed Saidi, who we just talked to, Mohamed Saidi lives in Fes, and good that he didn't show his face, because I think that, yeah, it's quite serious if he gets recognized in a big channel like yours. So near it, which is my hometown, McNess, a high school student was sentenced to 3 years in jail. He's still in trial now, I think. I don't know if they passed the sentence here. His sentence yet. He's 18 years old. Do you know why they did that?
No.
Because he published on Facebook, he shared on Facebook the lyrics of a Moroccan rap song that's critical of a little bit critical of the regime, called Ash Shab, which means long live the king. Long live the long live the people. And the famous motto in Morocco is long live the king. So it was making fun of that. So he just shared it, got 3 years, and there's been like a lot of trials and a lot of arrests and a huge crackdown recently. Just
is his name? Is his rapper name Mohamed Munir Navi?
I think so. Yes, I don't follow Moroccan rappers that much, and I think he is in jail now. He's sentenced for 1 year in jail for making that song in the first place. Yes, that's him. Gets 1 year jail for insulting the police. So there is that. Yeah.
Seriously, how do they expect? I mean, obviously you don't agree with this, but how do they expect society to move forward if like with rules like this? It's crazy.
They don't care about society to move forward. Morocco is like their property, and it's an authoritarian regime. That's like wondering how the Al Saud family in Saudi Arabia care about society.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't. They care about themselves. They care about their influence and keeping things in order. It's a police state. So that's why they arrested him and put him in jail for insulting the police. He probably just said something simple like police are taking bribes, or police are. Yeah, speaking of the corrupt Moroccan police force, just pointing that out is a criminal offense.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's considered insulting. There's a law called insulting an government employee in his workplace, or something like that. So yeah, you can rot in jail for that. So we're talking about a lot of things here that are really a feature of police states, and Morocco gets away with it because its neighbors are the Middle East is considered much worse. So yeah, so it's Morocco gets away with it because of its publicity stunts abroad, but it's the tension is building, and it's usually the upper classes in Morocco. They are in their own bubbles, because they're like, okay, I'm doing well, so screw the rest, I don't care. You have those. Not everybody is like that, but you have those. And you have some really good journalists, like Ahmed Ben Shamsi, for example, who was very critical of the political situation in Morocco and published started the first magazine in Moroccan Arabic for the masses to read and understand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nishan. So and Telkel in French. So they were just talking about describing the situation in Morocco, and they had to go to court. Some of his colleagues were harassed and threatened with jail sentences, etc. Now he, I think, works with Human Rights Watch in the United States. So the people that want to do some actual change, they're exiled or put in jails.
Oh, yeah. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and you don't have to be that famous. There was just this old 90-ish years old man in a Moroccan city. You can Google it in Human Rights Watch wrote about it. And back in 2008, he was a disabled old man, and he just got angry and said something about the monarchy. and he was jailed for 3 years or something in jail. He died in jail after spending 6 months there. He was in his 90s, and he just got angry and said something. This is a disabled man. So we're talking about some really wicked shit. Pardon the language, but it's
It's brutal. So going back to your story now. So we didn't even talk about you got attacked in the alley. Let's quickly talk about that. Your new life in Sweden.
Sorry.
So yeah, let's quickly talk about that, and then we'll get to your new life in Sweden.
Okay. So I was Casablanca, leading my life normally, not too political, not too discussing too much religion, focusing more on the profession, etc. And just leading my my usual life. And so I'm talking like this was like a year and a half ago, like this was like December 2018. So I was just like after work having a cup of coffee with an acquaintance. So we were just talking like daily stuff, like, and in Morocco it's very hard to avoid the conversation about religion because it's everywhere. Although at that time I was trying to avoid it because I know what I'm gonna say, because I quickly just switch into a harsh Islamophobe. So so I said something, and some genius overheard that, and they just decided to apply God's law on earth, and followed me and then tried to stab me, and my sprinting skills and some martial arts skills that I acquired in high school were helpful at that time, and my survival instincts basically. Otherwise, I could have gotten hurt and possibly just bleed to death there. And so and they are not the king's niece, then nobody will care about you. So it will just be considered like a normal murder in Casablanca.
Yeah.
I went to the police after that and tried to report it, but of course you can't tell them everything because the details is that, well, again, I broke the law and said, sorry?
What happens? Yeah. So if you went to the police and you said, I was attacked, this guy chased me
here and there,
and then what would they say to you?
They said, well, you're not bleeding. Come back to us when you're bleeding. So don't bother us again. And one of them was laughing with his colleague because they didn't even invite me, let me in to the bureau inside, and to the desk.
Right?
So they, sorry,
I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
One of them was laughing. He was like, "Oh, this is just one of those posh children," because I was wearing my suit after work, so I looked posh to him. So I was like, "This is one of those posh children." So they basically don't really care. And if you're gonna explain to them in details, and after that, the person, I think, somehow figured out where I live, and I spotted him a couple of times in the middle of the night from my apartment, in front of the building, with his friend.
Wow.
And I don't think they were trying to get invited for a dinner party. I think they were there they meant business. And when someone means business in Morocco, they don't send you a death threat. They don't like tell you, I'm going to do this to you and I'm going to do that to you. No, they just do it right away. If they can, they do it. So, and once when I spotted them, I made a police call and said, well, there's some suspicious activity in the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. And I waited for like 3 or 4 hours until a police car just passed by there. And the two gentlemen, nice people, just left. And of course, and it got like, and after that it got really bad, and it developed into some really serious stuff that's still very sensitive to me.
So they would ask you, if you went to the police and you said this happened, they'd ask you, why is this person threatening you, and
why do you think this person tried to? And then why do you think?
And if you said, because I said something offensive to the religion, what would happen?
They might arrest you there, because then you will be admitting to breaking Moroccan law. That would be very stupid to do.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely stupid.
Yeah.
It's like going to a police station and say, hey, I sell drugs or something like that. Please come and look inside my home, and maybe just... It's like trying to get yourself arrested. It's just really extremely
So
stupid to do.
so this system enables violence against atheists and ex-Muslims.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And when it happens, that violence is not covered because they don't want. If this victim is a Moroccan citizen, and especially if it's not a famous Moroccan citizen like this actor, well, who cares? Who cares about you? You're just one other stupid Moroccan citizen. We don't care about you. There are many like you, so you don't matter. And there was, I think, a criminal series on Moroccan television, where one of the one of the episodes was about a Moroccan atheist in Casablanca who was kidnapped by three people and was decapitated, executed in an empty construction site. So
Wow.
that probably happened around like 12, 13 years ago, or even 15 years ago. So and it was not classified as a terrorist attack because the victim is a Moroccan citizen. And speaking of progressive Morocco, I mean, just before, during that time, December 2018, which I would put as the worst month in my whole life so far, during that time, 3 Islamic State members decapitated 2 Scandinavian tourists near Marrakesh. So
Why?
they decapitated them because they were infidels. That's why.
So these are just like that. They just wanted to attack them because they were like foreigners, basically.
Because they looked not just foreigners but infidel foreigners. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, and they were like, "Oh, we have avenged our brothers in Raqqa in Syria," and
So
like,
stupid.
what the hell? Have you ever been to Raqqa, you fucking moron? It's just so there is that. The masses are, again, we are talking about a very conservative society. It's a very schizophrenic society. Now in Morocco, you have alcohol is sold and licenses are given to shops that sell them, usually to non-Muslim nationals or foreigners, and they sell them. Even before, like a few years back, it was sold in the biggest supermarket chain, which is owned by the royal family and by the king. Yeah. So, and he was called out for it. He was like, "Oh, this is the commander of the faithful, and he's selling alcohol. I mean, how do you do it?" So they stopped selling it in those that supermarket chain. So again, it's schizophrenic. The whole thing is schizophrenic. It's really not a stable society. It's contradictory.
Yeah.
And this actor was arrested because he was saying some random stuff when he was drunk. So there you go. We sell you alcohol when you get drunk and film yourself saying something funny. We will arrest you. That's basically how it works.
Yeah.
So again, this is undercovered, like the things that usually happen like this in Morocco for Moroccan citizens. They are not covered.
Yeah.
And there is a law that now, even if you see something wrong that the authorities are doing wrong, or if you see someone doing something wrong and you film them, you could be persecuted for it because you didn't get permission to film that person.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. Yes. And a lot of people got persecuted, and some were sentenced to jail for that. Especially some who filmed, for example, inside a shitty Moroccan hospital, or filmed a police officer taking a bribe or something, or filming someone robbing someone. There was a person who filmed a robbery and took the video to the police force. They arrested him, not the person who did the robbery. So yeah, because of a law that prohibits. So and that law exists so that it can keep everything, the keep the local population in the international community under the in the dark about what really goes on in Moroccan society, in what the Moroccan state does, and the state of minorities there.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna go all downhill from here. I mean, Boogeyman is saying in the chat, and there's also a new law they're trying to implement that if you criticize a company, you'll get in trouble. So
If you criticize a company
yeah, so it
in
sounds
Morocco.
yeah, it sounds like it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it's just getting worse and worse, and the arrests are increasing. As I told you, there was a recent crackdown in the last 6 months of 2019, and now this actor, and we don't know how many cases are underreported and not reported, because most of the Moroccan press is not free. All of it. I mean, except a few like outlets that are active from abroad, and that have the courage to say what's going on, and they don't have the first like hand accounts. They don't have reporters on the ground or the resources. And most of the newspapers in Morocco are financed by the Moroccan state. So worst case scenario, they will just cut the financial aid to them, and they will collapse.
Yeah.
Or they will just put a few like journalists of your newspaper in jail. So there you go, no fourth estate. And they're just pushing the local propaganda, and you have state-owned television, which is just like every day you see the king, and the king, there's his picture all over the place, and Sunni Maliki Islam and blah 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 and all that, and the typical like classic theocratic monarchies.
Sort of, right? Got a donation from A. Anderson who said, Mohammed, I hope you'll be allowed to stay but also protected. Muslim Brotherhood, Islamists, extreme left slowly tries poisoning the well of free speech. Everybody gone through the various pains of leaving a dogma since birth needs to be heard out too. So thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Anderson. Thank you.
And you also you got a message from Base. Sorry, what was it? Base DSFG from Twitter saying he has your back, and he said he'll know who he is.
Base.
Yes.
Base?
On
I don't
Twitter.
know who this Base.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, mate. I don't know, but hit me up on Twitter so I can.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Safa in the chat as Safa goes at now. So what happened? And you left the country after you're seeing this decline. You're seeing that there's no freedom of speech. You're seeing that you yourself have been threatened physically, attacked physically. You left the country. So now, so then did you bought a plane ticket and you left? Like what was the process?
The process was just pure luck for me, because at that time I had a valid Swedish Schengen visa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the Moroccan passport just takes you to places where you will get shot in the face.
Oh.
So yeah, it's one of the weakest passports in the world. So really, yeah. So I have been to France before. So I have like travel history and all that. So I was. Before all of that happened, because you usually have to apply like quite a few months before your date of departure if you're planning a vacation. Now people with strong passports don't have to like care about this. And anyways, so so I had that valid Swedish visa because I was, planning to get the yearly bonus from the job, and going to, visit Sweden, this land of the Swedish metal scene and all that. So yeah, because I'm quite a fanatic metal music fan. Yeah. So that's and to see a band here, which is quite famous here in Sweden, Ghosts BC, as known in North America, and in the rest of the world, it's just Ghosts. So, anyways, so that was like the initial plan, and a friend of mine, after I told him what happened, in the conversation, so well, I have a valid Swedish visa and all that, and now I can't travel, and I was like, I'm sorry, what are you waiting for? Do you wanna like wait to go to jail or to die or something? What is it like? What does it have to take for you to basically get the hell out of there? I mean, there are like people with zero reasons to leave the country, and they leave the country. So they just leave it so that they can like get richer and then buy an expensive car and show off to their friends in the neighborhood back in Morocco. So what are you waiting for exactly? And that really like made me like, and I couldn't like go to the airport there because my at that time I was like just panicking and not thinking everything through rationally, because it was just too much in a very short period of time. Just everything flipped so fast.
Mhm.
I did not have like a break to just catch my breath and just think things through on what my next move should be. And my visa was about to expire, and I could not go to the airport until one day I was like, I need to get my, this is like a life or death situation for me. So it will just get worse from here. I was like on medical leave from work, like for weeks, and it was not like it was not like a pleasant situation to be in. And you cannot again reach anyone. I reached a psychologist, and she said, "What's your problem with Islam?" So she made it worse. This is a psychologist, a professional, a therapist. So in Morocco, this
Oh,
is a
and
professional therapist. Yeah, in
oh,
Morocco, not here. Yeah, in Morocco.
yeah.
This is still in Morocco. We're still in Morocco now. This is early 2019, like December 2018, early 2019. So until I just, at some point, I just found basically, the courage to go to the airport and leave before it's too late. And I landed in Sweden and applied for asylum here.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
So what the psychologist or therapist, she said, "What's your problem with Islam?" Like that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we were just talking randomly. I thought she was professional,
Yeah.
and well, she didn't look that religious because she was not wearing a headscarf. She's, she's very proud of her diplomas from University of Bordeaux in France and all that. So she had them all over the place, and she's, I thought, well, she's professional. This is a psychiatrist, and I don't, I don't think that she's gonna be unprofessional, but she was. So she made things worse for me at that time. And yeah, so after that, I left Morocco, and just getting out of the airport without like shaking to death was, especially if you're like confronted by a Moroccan police officer. And I remember the day when I was leaving in the border. They took my passport, and the police officer at the border was just looking at my passport longer than usual, because I've been to outside Morocco before, to France. They are not like very much. They don't start looking at your passport for 10 minutes. He was just clicking on his computer, and then he just stared at me, took the passport, and left somewhere with my passport. So in that moment, I was just like trying to control all my like just keep all of that fear. I was like, okay, yeah, this is amazing. Like, it's gonna just a few steps away from freedom, and I'm gonna end up with these idiots here. And we're talking about the Moroccan police force. You cannot reason with most of them. Most of them are just really not that bright or that nice.
What if you bribe them? Nothing.
Well, they could just want to make you suffer and say, well, he tried to bribe me.
Oh yeah.
Especially at the airport where there are so many cameras. I mean, if you try to bribe a police officer there, yeah, I was threatened with arrest, and I had to bribe them to get away with it, so they don't send some documents to the court. So I had through that. I had gone through that, and a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, had to go through something like that.
Yeah.
Again, he might be still in Morocco. I will not give too much information on that. So it's a really tricky situation. You do not trust them. If they want to punish you, they can.
So what happened then?
So it just got lucky. He got back, and he just started staring at me, asked some dumb questions, and he was like, "Oh, okay." And then he just stamped it, and then finally, I just felt this weight being taken. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So flying to Sweden and landing in Sweden, the next day I apply for asylum, and the first person to be taken my my statement for the reasons for asylum was a hijabi Muslim lady who works at the Swedish Migration Board. So as you can imagine, it was such a nice couple of hours or 3 hours with her, and it was not tense at all. So again, I am not like someone who I believe in professionalism, but at that point it was just too much. It's like the last thing I need is someone being biased against me,
Oh my
and you're just it's really not
I don't
it's not desirable.
Yeah. Is it possible to ask for like a new like to I mean it's not really possible, but there's a conflict of interest there between
it is
views, right? Like it's almost like if someone was Jordanian and you're like seeking refuge from Jordan, you're leaving Jordan,
exactly,
and you talk to a Jordanian, and it's like it's like
exactly
it's a conflict of interest, right? It's a problem.
Yes. It is a very problematic thing. And later on, my lawyer said they usually do this. And he doesn't know. My lawyer at the time, he did not know why they were doing that. Usually, with cases with former Muslims and like minorities that are non-Muslim minorities from the Islamic world that live and apply for asylum in Sweden, they usually do that with them, especially with former Muslims.
What do they do normally?
They give the cases to case officers who are, highly likely to be from the Muslim faith.
Wow.
Yeah, because this is Sweden, so they don't believe that they should discriminate against people based on religion. So you should not. It's
they're trying to do a good thing, but they don't realize that there's a problem there because there's a bias towards certain parts of the Muslim community. So
they are ignorant of Islam and the Islamic culture. Sweden as a country, as a whole, is very ignorant and naive towards Islamic culture and society. And I don't expect the public to know much about Islam or like the details or how it operates, especially the more conservative versions and the more political versions of it. Because the lawmakers here, the educators, the journalists don't know what they are talking about usually when discussing Islam. So how do you expect the normal citizens to know much about it?
I can see where they're coming from when they're thinking, okay, since we want to help these Muslim people from these Muslim countries, we'll put a Muslim person in charge of this immigration or refugee application process. But they don't realize that by doing that, they're actually introducing a bias. Because there's already a bias against ex-Muslims, against atheists,
by non-Muslims. Non-Muslims, they're like, oh, this is just trying to make things up. And they are all of them. They just blah blah blah. So you have to worry about those, some xenophobic bias, and you have to worry about religious bias and all that. So it's desirable to just worry about one thing and not about the whole thing, and about religious bias from a conservative Muslim that works at the Migration Board. And now I think the head of the refugee quota in Sweden is Suad Ali, who's affiliated with Islamic Relief, which is affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. So she's a high-ranking officer now. She's in charge of refugee quotas in Sweden. Well, I am sure that she's not going to pick the LGBTQ people and the non-Muslim minorities and the ex-Muslim converts and atheists to get asylum status in Sweden. She's gonna pick, the conservative, homies, Muslims that are, will make the dream come true of a better Sweden. We're all biased, but just you have to be very smart about it, and what good would come out of it. I will not get too political, but Sweden is already like suffering from such naivety and ignorance when it comes to dealing with Islamic cultures and the Islamic religion as a whole here in Sweden.
I know. I mean, I did tell you beforehand that I don't want to get into politics, but I think it's kind of
Yeah,
feels like it's almost inseparable now
yeah, yeah,
based on your story, and I feel like
yeah,
it's kind of important we talk about it. I think
yeah.
so.
Just a little, maybe.
What
Just a
I'll tell
little.
you, what I will say is, I asked. I definitely don't. I feel very responsible having this platform, and it always scares me that I will be enabling, if I'm enabling any harm towards innocent people, I don't want to be a part of that. But
Yeah.
what you've told me is so compelling. But anyways, what I did is I asked one of my friends who is from Sweden. I mean, he lived in Sweden for a very long time. He's not Swedish, but he settled in Sweden he got married in Sweden. He has a kid in Sweden, and he told me that, and he's very liberal. He's very liberal. So I'm like,
Me
okay,
too. Me too.
this guy.
But in Sweden, if you're far left, back where you come from in the Islamic lands, and you come here in Sweden, you're considered far right because you criticize Islam.
So
Sorry.
so what he told me was, he feels that like Sweden, I mean, obviously, all those Syrian refugees they took, I mean, this is a very, very like sticky topic, very heated subject, but he said, even he mentioned that he feels like Sweden was a little bit too ambitious in what they did and the amount of people that they took without properly thinking it through and planning it, because all of these people are coming from a culture that's totally different. The treatment of women, the attitude towards women is significantly different than Sweden. And
homosexuals,
yeah,
and other minorities, non-Muslims. Yeah.
and so there was definitely like some bad things that happened because they allowed so many people so quickly to come in without properly planning it, integrating them
Without good vetting, without proper vetting. Yeah, there was just
so
there was automatic asylum status for Syrian refugees. So it was the only thing you had to prove was that you are a Syrian citizen and get automatic refugee status. Well, Bashar al-Assad is Syrian, and the fighters in the Syrian organized army are Syrian citizens too. And the parties fighting, it's a civil war. I think it's a very, very dangerous thing to do to a country at civil war, because you have several parties fighting. And again, the culture is very, very different. And it's not just Syria, because I really don't like to focus too much on countries at war, because I've never been in a war zone. But still, I mean, what good would come out of it? Why not have some international you don't have to go full bananas and just go back where you come from and die in an airstrike.
Yeah,
you don't have to go just full I don't know, Himmler or whatever. You can just, if you are from a certain culture, you can go to the safe country that has cultural norms that are close to you. It would be good for everybody.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you have people homosexuals who've been harassed in refugee centers here in European countries. Ex-Muslims being harassed and threatened here because the people that they ran away from followed them all the way here.
Yeah.
So what good comes out of that? So
have you been called? So there's a comment here that says only ex-Muslims are allowed to say this without being called xenophobic or racist.
I was just called xenophobic and racist yesterday by a far left winger here in Sweden.
Yeah,
and he said, "Good riddance with you, that they are gonna deport you to Morocco." He's a far left winger. Congratulations! Cheers.
It does happen, right? Actually, it actually does happen. The other word that's used is Islamophobic.
Yeah,
and I do get where this sort of concern is coming from, and obviously I'm always guiding myself against that. So I do think we have to be careful, and I haven't heard anything from you that's xenophobic or
no, I don't. I'm a very friendly person outside of social media. It's just that I sometimes I go off the rails on Twitter, but it's just the platform, and it's there's no room to some things are just. There's no need for public relations. I'm not a diplomat. I mean, I'm the one who's a minority here.
Yeah.
Where I come from, it's the Muslim majority there. They are racist and xenophobic against you too.
Yeah.
You, the person who is very delicate.
Yeah.
Why not show the same concern with Christians?
Yeah.
Why not be very? I'm very like interested in knowing the psychology behind how these Western, so-called Western liberals, and usually on the left wing here in Sweden, it's pretty much all over the place.
Yeah.
Are very concerned whenever Islam is in question, something negative that's points. Why not do it with Christianity? So you have the right.
Yeah.
You had basically a big reformation of the religion, etc., and you are whining just about like the church here. Some of the things they complain about here in Sweden, usually in the media and in public platforms, are laughable. Some things that they call sexism and racism are just funny to me.
Yeah.
Because I would love to take them for a little trip just in Morocco. See, real racism is sexism.
Yeah.
Where the woman can't leave without her, the girl can't leave, although she's an adult, without her parents' permission, just to go to the store or something. It's
definitely some sort of political blind spot where you want to support minorities, but then when the minorities are doing the oppression,
it's racism of low expectations. It's racism of low expectations.
Low expectations.
You're just this poor little dumb backward Muslim. You just be nice, okay? Go over there, live in the segregated area. Don't bother us too much. Here's some welfare for you. You want a mosque? We'll build a little mosque for you in the halal butcher, and just don't talk too much. If you come from that society and say, "Hey, this is wrong," like for example, here in Sweden, there's an ex-Muslim convert called Muna Walter. When she spoke against the what goes on behind closed doors in those segregated areas, which are turning like what, as she described, a state within a state, where the police can't go. If the authorities don't have easy access there, that means that the territory is not under their control.
Yeah.
And they interviewed some women. I saw like a documentary by RT on the matter, and there was a hijabi Muslim lady who couldn't show her face, because I know why she couldn't show her face in the interview, because she fears repercussions against her by the people that live there.
Yeah,
this is happening in Sweden, and there was a school bus in Rinkeby, which is an infamous suburb in Stockholm, where the little girls enter the bus from the back and the little boys enter from the front of the bus. So the school bus is segregated, and they go to Islamic faith school. So, I mean, you're having the experience of under Taliban here in Northern Europe.
You have that.
What about those children? Sorry?
You have that in Canada too. I put my kids in an Islamic school for many years. Although the Islamic school here for kids is not segregated, because it's kids, like 8-year-old, 10-year-old kids. Why would you need to segregate 10-year-old kids? At the high school level, so when you get to the Islam, so there's a big mosque here known as ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. It's like a multi-million-dollar mosque / school, and they're one of the better Islamic schools, and they segregate starting from high school. So, I mean, I understand. I mean, some people want the kids at that age to not be, mixing with girls or whatever. I mean, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that really helps children's sort of not coping mechanisms, but socialization. I mean, you should learn how to talk to women. If you're a man, you need to learn to talk to girls, because otherwise you become socially awkward and strange, and you don't understand the opposite sex, which is stupid. So
you become misogynistic, like most young men from the Islamic cultures.
I guess maybe that's one of the side effects. I'm not sure. I think in this society, I don't know if you'd become misogynistic or just become very socially awkward. Whatever the case is. I don't think it's a good thing, but I wouldn't really call that Taliban or anything like that. I just think it's definitely
it's Taliban-like. It's not Taliban-like with the shootings. It's short of that. If you're gonna set the bar so low, then we should wait just a little bit more until it becomes like Taliban. Well, they definitely have worse life experience than some places in Morocco, which is 99% or 98% Muslim majority. They don't put segregated school. They don't have segregated school buses in Morocco.
Yeah.
That's extremism.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you do that, you're gonna be under police surveillance. They're gonna like be, hey, what are you trying to do here? Are you creating the next Al Qaeda here, or what's going on?
Yeah.
So
I feel like now here's where I have a problem, because I'm again liberal leaning, and I feel like, excuse me, if they want to have the schools, now this is where it becomes tricky. If you have a private institution like a private school, and they want to have the school to be only boys, or boys and girls separated, or only girls, even like a girls only school. I mean, we have women's only gyms here, right? For example, and nobody has a problem with women's only gyms. So why is it a problem if they want to put the kids in that sort of? I mean, it's a problem. Meaning,
a gym is not a school. Usually, kids don't go to the gym.
Yeah,
kids go to learn.
True,
and,
but
schools should not be like monopolized by religious institutions in secular states.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if you're gonna have a laissez-faire in policy with schools and with public institutions, how much time is it gonna like take for us to have the next Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi from Sweden? And by the way, Sweden produced 300 ISIS fighters.
Wow.
And so it's a very, very small country of a population that's barely above 10 million now. And I think they produced 300, I think it was from one city, Gothenburg. Mm-hmm. This is one city, I think, produced 300 ISIS fighters.
Yeah.
And many of them returned. They didn't lose their citizenship, and they're not going to be persecuted here because they didn't commit the crimes here. And the legal system here is lenient anyways. And there's no terrorism law yet in Sweden.
But how do you so my
those people live here. They could be living in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they killed for fun and they raped for fun back in Syria and Iraq. And when their plan of conquering, establishing the caliphate didn't work, just came back, So social safety net. Yeah.
If there was evidence against them, then they definitely wouldn't be allowed back. Isn't that the case? Is it because no evidence against them? How do we?
If you're gonna enter that area, you will not get out because you cannot document the crimes that they did. So how do you deal with it? I think, and I should, and this is not like very popular. I don't see it's discussed much. Is that you should treat them like if they joined a foreign military force. Mm-hmm. So that in many countries, if you join a foreign military force, that is grounds for losing your citizenship. Yeah. There were American citizens who joined the French Foreign Legion in France. Again, this is not considered a terrorist organization. It's just a French Foreign Legion, which is part of the French army. And they joined this as American citizens, and they lost their citizenship.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for them to do it with ISIS fighters? I mean, you don't. I mean, it's not like they joined the local gang to look tough. They went and they know what they are doing. I mean, these people are not idiots. They know what they are doing, and they are very clear about it. I don't understand. And if they tell you I was a cook there, well, they all say they were cooks and bus drivers. And some Iraqis laugh at it and say, well, all of ISIS were just cooks and bus drivers and taxi drivers. None of them was fighting. So it's ridiculous. I mean, I really don't understand this stupidity, really, when dealing with the subjects by lawmakers, by the experts.
Again, this is way out of my league of expertise, and now I think I have to kind of we'll have to stop talking about it because I really don't know what's going on. I do think that if there was the are trying to deal with the situation, but again, I don't know the details. But I think it's not as simple as, ISIS fighters coming back, and we know that an ISIS fighter. Let's welcome them back and let them into.
That's what they did. That's mostly what they did here in Sweden. And you can Google the city which proposed reintegration and rehabilitation plans for ISIS fighters because they got traumatized for losing the war.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So their genocide of the Yazidis and their caliphate plan didn't go well,
Yeah,
and they got traumatized. The poor little children didn't know what they were doing.
yeah.
So I think this is I'm starting to think it's sort of a cultural thing here in Sweden.
Oh, yeah.
This culture of you're always a victim. You're a little, you know, yeah. You're never responsible for doing wicked stuff.
Yeah,
Again, this is not like some small issue like you were a bully and other kids, or you just like joined a gang to sound tough or to get
yeah,
rich quick. This is serious like war crimes.
yeah.
This
This is
is like the most dangerous terrorist organizations I believe in history. So it should not be taken lightly.
so. What this article is saying is that this Imran Awan, leading Islamophobia expert, said that interviewees were willing to give them a chance, while other interviewees warned that if ISIS fighters were not rehabilitated, they would find another extremist group and join them. So yeah, it seems a little bit dubious that if you're actually involved in, if there's actual evidence or good reason to suspect someone was in ISIS, I don't think they should be given another chance. I mean, that's a little bit much.
I think it's too much. I
It's
think
too much
it's
any other-
that there's some
Yeah.
things that are just like you don't like get a second chance from.
Yeah,
And so most of them don't show any regret. I mean, there also a BBC documentary
yeah,
with ISIS women.
yeah,
They did not show regret for the victims. They
Yeah.
just regretted that they couldn't return to their countries and that their husbands died and that their children are in poor conditions in those refugee camps.
yeah. That's
They have
crazy.
no remorse against the victims. And I know why. I mean, if you read the Islamic scripture,
Yeah,
and you know the Salafi jihadist Wahhabi doctrine that ISIS was feeding off, it makes sense.
yeah,
Why should they feel remorse for the enemies of Allah? So
Yeah. yeah. So, so what I'm kind of struggling with, and it's gone on for a bit. We're almost running out of time now, so we'll try to wrap it up and add some concluding remarks soon. What I wanted to kind of ask you is how. So, if I'm someone that supports. So, what I'm trying to say is, under my thinking process, it's okay for people to be religious. It's okay
yes,
to follow the religion as long as they don't impinge on the rights of others, right? So
yes,
if you're having
Yes.
a private Islamic school for kids, and it's private school, it's not mainstream, there's no tax money going towards it, or even a Christian school, private Jewish school, any sort of private religious institution, and they're willing to put their own money and to build it on themselves and whatever, how do I have a right to say that's wrong of them to segregate the kids? I mean, I can say it's wrong, and I can say you guys are idiots, and this is going to lead to a harmful.
children's rights.
But is it
Two
is it
words:
possible for-
children's rights. Children's
Yeah,
rights. The
children's
state
rights-
has authority to protect children.
So if
You have children taken away from their homes
Okay,
here
but
in
what if I want
Sweden.
to homeschool my kids? What if I want to homeschool
Sorry.
my kids? What if I'm homeschooling my kids and I'm saying I'm not going to put my kids in school and I'm going to teach them that homosexuality is wrong. I'm going to bring them up as good Muslims, not to hurt anybody, to be a good member of society, to do their job, but also to be religious, to not mix with women, to not shake hands with women. All of these things that I think are like, they're going to get married young, probably when they're in their 20s, just like I did. What's wrong? Like not what's wrong with that. Definitely, I think there's problems with that. But how can we allow the state to step in? Because what I'm worried about is fascism now. When the state,
I am not a fan of the state involved in anything. I am not a fan of the state getting its nose everywhere. But as a whole, society has a duty to protect those children. Now, if it's private school on the weekend, and the children go to public school and learn about real science and about real things, and not like gets indoctrinated into becoming fanatics or just becoming awkward infidel hating members of society, then that's that's where you draw the line. I think if there's like some balance there, if you just let it go, this is the educational system. Okay, what about the other kids who are going to how are you going to create equality in society when one kid is homeschooled or religiously taught some children's story and creationism and some dumb religious stuff, and the other one gets real science and gets real education and becomes a smart productive member of society, and the other one, when turns 18 or 19, they can't get to the shittiest university, and they
So
just become dependent on they're not gonna all become
yeah,
priests
yeah,
and imams.
yeah.
And usually you don't have a problem with Christian schools, because they are under here, in at least in Scandinavia, they're under they can't like teach sex segregation, etc.,
Yeah.
because it's too much advanced
Mm.
even for Christianity here. It's been so liberalized for
Yeah.
too long.
Yeah.
So the problem here now is usually with the conservative part of Islam here in Swedish society, I think.
Yeah. So can I say something?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So based on what you were saying, I whether it's so I can give you some examples of it, which will kind of counter some of the things you're saying. My wife, has a conservative Christian family, so she's a convert to Islam, although she's not like really religious or anything, but she comes from a conservative Christian background, and she has homeschooled cousins that are doing amazing. She has, and not just that, I'm telling you, the Islamic school here in Canada.
Yes,
Hold on,
but
hold on, let me finish.
yeah, sorry, yeah.
There's an Islamic school here in Toronto area that the average and it's not just weekend school. I'm not talking about madrasa. I'm talking about an Islamic school that teaches all of the stuff that a regular school teaches, but in an Islamic way. Okay, so they have the Islamic sort of stuff, Arabic and whatever. The Islamic school here is doing better in the standardized tests than the public school. They're doing better. These kids have a higher chance of getting into university than the kids in the public, than my kids in public school.
Okay.
And
Well,
my point is, hold on. My point is, what right do I have to tell these Muslims or Christians, you have to put your kids in public school, you cannot have a private school, you cannot homeschool, when they're actually just doing their own thing? I don't agree with conservatism. I don't
agree with that either. It's not conservatism. Yeah.
Well,
it's not conservatism.
Religious conservatism.
No, yeah, religious conservatism. Yes. Again, if those schools are under surveillance, like meet the standards, if they're not teaching their children some gibberish that is not this useless, if they're not just repeating the words of the Quran the whole week, then, because again, it's a gray area. Case by case basis, maybe some Islamic schools are better than some secular schools.
I'm not saying
in
terms of
products. Well, again, it's really not a good. It doesn't indicate much. What is the value system of those students in the first place? Because what's his name? Al-Dawahiri, Ayman al-Dawahiri, who's the head of Al-Qaeda now. He was a surgeon in Egypt. No, people are not stupid. I mean, it doesn't mean that, he's a conservative Muslim, therefore he's stupid. No.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Some people know what they're doing. Yeah. Some people have, some people are really smart.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't become a surgeon just like that. So, and many, like, if you look at just the profile of those, like, top-ranking ISIS fighters, I mean, many of them have university education. Some of them were engineers and upper mid class here in the countries where they brought up here in Europe, mostly in Europe. So it's really not a variable that should be taken too much into consideration, because maybe it works in Canada. It's Canada is much bigger than Sweden. It's really, I don't think that the state should enter into that, like negotiate, like privatizing education generally is not all that good of an idea generally.
Yeah.
So to make it religious, non-religious, and just mix things up, and you have these kids who are very fluent at Arabic in Sweden, but they are very, very struggling with Swedish, which is the national and official language in the country.
Yeah.
What good Arabic is gonna do for you as a productive member of society here in Sweden? You
Yeah.
have people who can't speak Swedish, who are born and raised here in Sweden.
Yeah.
So we are talking about a very different level. Canada is much bigger. It can absorb. It's by its nature, Canada is a country that was. It's a very like plural society. It's very fabric is built by immigrants from different backgrounds. Sweden has been homogenous for too long.
Oh yeah.
Just recently, I read that now the Arabic language is the second largest spoken language in Sweden after and it took the place of Finnish, which was the second largest spoken language in Sweden for 800 years, for over 800 years. And all that change took place in like a matter of like, what, 20, 30 years? Not even close to that. So it's, now I would not be very like, if it was German or Italian language, I mean, I would not be very concerned. But the Arabic culture and language by its nature is very supremacist. Just ask the Amazigh-speaking people in North Africa. I mean, where are they? It's reduced. So they were the majority. It was the official tongue in those regions, and Arabic through Islam mainly survived as a language.
Yeah,
and it's spread to those places. I mean, what did they speak in Egypt? Did they speak Arabic before Islam? No, they spoke Coptic. So when they were Islamized and Arabized, that's when it happened. And I am not. Now, there's a fine line between sounding like too harsh on a certain culture but again, the people are not very nice just when speaking about German culture or any European culture. Like the cultures that get most of the beating are European cultures.
Yeah.
So most of the beating, I don't see much beating happening to the currently right now the cultures that produce most of the honor violence, most of the problems that are really medieval.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You see where am I going with this?
Yeah. So the thing about the culture is, I think the problem with what happened is just how quickly it happened. I think that is a big problem. I have no problem with, I mean, I don't want to sound like, I don't know how it's going to sound bad if I say this. I have no problem with Arabic being the second language or even the first language spoken in Sweden, as long as it's done slowly and people, getting assimilating into the existing culture. Because when you do it so suddenly, that causes a lot of problems, right? Go ahead.
Again, culture and language are very, very close together. So the language brings the culture with it, and the culture brings usually the language. So you cannot have Arabic-speaking Swedes per se, like that eat Swedish meatballs and have midsummer every year, and have one of the most liberal gender equality and all that, just like that.
Yeah,
the language always goes hand in hand. This is like well researched in linguistics.
Yeah.
So culture is not divorced from the language.
But there is kind of a rising.
And do it the other way around. I mean, try to impose French on Moroccans and see what's gonna happen. France was like trying to make the society a little bit French-like through, and it's now French is like the second language, English is in many countries. They are not very happy about it, and from a very cultural, if you want to preserve the culture and all that. Again, I'm not very conservative in that area, so I believe in survival for the fittest. The culture that's most useful for us, you take the good stuff and leave the bad stuff. So that's how I see it.
The survival of the fittest is actually a bad thing here, because what's going to happen is the Muslims and the large birth rates, they are the ones who are going to outperform the local cultures. Just by numbers.
Yes, just by numbers. That's
survival of the fittest is actually something we have to control for it, because we don't. as a society, as humanity, survival of the fittest is not necessarily a good thing.
No. I maybe I did not elaborate on that. I made it sound in like very like primitive Darwinian language, but no.
Yeah.
What I mean is that you take the good stuff of a certain culture. We copy from each other all the time.
Mhm.
You see?
Okay.
Yeah, we copy from each other. Cultures learn from each
Oh.
other. If you take the Moroccan culture, for example, it's a mixture of like French, Spanish, Arabic, local, Amazigh cultures mixed together, and it's okay. It's not necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes it's okay. I don't care about the superficial stuff, about the food and all that. I care about the values, the value system.
Yeah.
Like, how long should we wait until we have discussions in the Swedish parliament about whether we should outlaw homosexuality? Speaking of, there is an Islamist party in Sweden already now called Nuance, which means Nuance Partiet, and they are already like beating the drums of Islamophobia and this us versus them. Oh, the Muslims are persecuted and no. Vote for us. We're the good guys. We're gonna give you a voice. And there was already a council of Muslims here in there are so many councils that I cannot keep track of them. And one of them is proposed in 2006 Islamic law for Muslims here in Sweden. So they want to influence the local legal system, and they started with at least for family law. Yeah, that's a good idea, because we know that Islamic family law is very, very nice to children and women. So we're gonna definitely let you do that.
Yeah.
So you have that Islamist political aspiration, which is you can't really take away from Islam.
Yeah.
And you have like, you don't have to wait for someone to blow something up. That's very extreme. I mean, how long should we take until the demographic changes so much that the voting behavior changes so much that if you compare between the same country in year 2050 and year 1990, it would look much backward. So what is the wisdom behind that? I don't understand. Like, why? And if you want, like, I think we all should have moral obligation to help others, but we should have we should also be like, how do you say, a little bit pragmatic and more like have the best solution. Not like, okay, well, there's a war in Syria. Okay, automatic asylum for all Syrian citizens. Like, I mean, I would have loved if Bashar al-Assad came to Sweden and just applied for asylum, just to make a lot, to just really, so they can see what they can do with that law. I mean, yeah, maybe he wouldn't get away with it because he has like so many war crimes, but still, you get the picture. What if it's just some warrior, some veteran, some mercenary or organized, like a member, a soldier of the organized Syrian army?
So a lot of comments here about the Islamic schools and the fact that it's hard to kind of regulate, the fact that there's people that might be working there with sort of terroristic kind of ideas and stuff like that, about how it creates this the value
segregated society.
Yeah, the value systems are not the same. Nobody knows for sure if they're following all the regulations. So I do think that the Islamic school thing is kind of like any other sort of issue where if you ban it, it just goes underground. So you really need to manage it in a way that you keep them happy while you also have the rules. So maybe the solution to the Islamic school thing is to have very strict regulations on all private schools, and they need to be checked, and then the curriculum needs to be tested. They need to have people coming in to, I don't know how to solve this problem, because the problem is if you ban it, of course, just like it'll just go underground and people will be homeschooling, and then you can't really ban homeschooling. Maybe you can, I don't know, but then you start to kind of step into fascism. So it's definitely a complicated issue. I definitely think it's bad for society. One of the best things we can do is to keep speaking about it. Even many Muslims are against Islamic schools, by the way. Like, they realize that this is kind of a ghettoization, and that by putting your kids in Islamic school, you're really not giving them the critical skills talk to non-Muslim, especially non-Muslims, because you're surrounded then by mostly Arabs, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, and maybe the token white converts kid, you know. But you don't have any Chinese people, you don't have any sort of Asian, and you know, some of my best friends in high school were Chinese, Vietnamese, and non-Muslims, right? And so I got a much broader Hindus, and I got a much broader perspective by being mixed. So I think we definitely want to fight this battle. I think that what you're doing, so to come to a conclusion, because you know it's been 2 hours, you know, I wish you the very best in your asylum process, and I hope that you get it. You're definitely a force for a good. I think we need more people like you in Sweden, just to kind of, you know, keep the society in check, because like it's definitely leaning too much towards one direction, and you know, with all of the cultural sort of the Darwinian cultural pressure coming from the Middle Eastern refugees, and you know, just in general the battle
Islamic mainly Islamic cultures in general. Like,
So do you want to add anything? Do you want what concluding remarks do you want to add? Before I do that, I'll just say one thing. I'll just share my screen one last time, just to show that you have a channel here, and your very first your very first video you made about you know, your asylum process. So I'm gonna share that in the comments. Do you want to, and also your Twitter as well? And I'll share your Twitter as well. 1 second. And do you want to add any comments while I do that? What are your final comments you'd like to share to the non-Muslims, to people in Sweden, to maybe to Muslims as well who might be watching? What are your thoughts here? Anything you want?
Yes, to the Swedish non-Muslims, they should just read a little bit more about Islam. Now it's the second largest religion, and it's on its way to be the largest religion. So get your head out of the sand, and you know, do some research. And to our Muslim friends, well, if you didn't have that many, you know, nice people in your communities that want us dead or hurt or just really feel indifferent about our demise, we would not be here. We would not be having this conversation. I would be in the Moroccan countryside sipping some Moroccan tea and just saying some funny jokes with my friends there and having some fun.
Yeah,
we would all be having a laugh at some jokes about Prophet Mohammed and religion and all that, and life would be much better. So yeah, they should research their religion more, and yeah, if I can do it, if I can leave Islam, then pretty much anyone can. So yeah.
Okay.
As AP says, stay away from Islam for the Muslims.
Yes,
and for the non-Muslims, and for the Muslims, leave Islam. So yeah, leave it for good.
This was a great conversation, and I learned a lot. I learned about Morocco. I learned about Sweden, and the challenges there, the difficult life there. And as I said before, all the super chats will be donated, passed on to Mohamed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Kindness.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Means a lot. I did not know about that. Thank you so much.
Do subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. There's only one video right now, but I'm sure he'll be making more. Mainly active on Twitter. Yeah, so Twitter is where you can kind of follow him for the most part. And yeah, like he was saying, as Apostle Prophet says, stay away from Islam. Whoever's new here, please do subscribe, and as well consider joining the channel. There's a join button below. If you click join now for as little as $2 a month, you get a little gold icon next to your name, and it shows YouTube that you are actually not just subscribing to a channel, but financially supporting it. So it's a vote of confidence for as little as $2 a month to YouTube, that there's an income stream coming here. And of course they take a share, but the most important thing is YouTube sees that people like the channel, and they need to actually give us a voice, because there's, as Mohammed was saying, there's definitely a bias in many of these societies where it's against any sort of criticism of religions, of Muslims, of Islam. And so, you know, if you made it to the end and you enjoy this content, please do consider supporting. Mainly because I want the channel to stay here. I don't want it to go away anytime soon. And of course, the money helps. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mohammed. And
thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure and great conversation with you.
Totally.
I
And
promise not to fangirl with you because I've watched your first video when you said talked about leaving Islam, and I was like, wow, this guy is quite yeah, impressive. It was impressive.
thank
Yeah,
you, thank you, thank you.
yeah, pleasure.
Okay, everyone. See you again at the next live stream, which will be happening soon, actually. Bye.
Bye.